Okay, lesson 76 is about consecutive integers. So consecutive integers are immediately next to one another on the number line. So integers that are 1 unit apart, that's what we call consecutive integers. So 4 and 5, they're right next to each other, they're consecutive. 12 and 13, they're right next to each other, they're consecutive. -1, -2, they're right next to each other, they're consecutive. All right, so when we want to, when we're doing a problem where we have to find consecutive integers, like in this example, it says find 3 consecutive integers, then the first thing we do is we name those 3 integers using a letter. So we might use X or N or whatever we want to use. And since there are 3 consecutive integers, we can call the first one n or x or whatever. The next one is going to be n plus 1 because it's right after the first one. And then the next one would be n plus 2, the next one would be n plus 3, and so on. In this problem, we just want 3 consecutive integers. So our 3 unknowns, we're going to call them n plus 1, and n plus 2. All right. So then we have our 3 unknowns, and now we're just going to take the information from the problem and write a equation using those words. So this problem says that the sum of the first and third is 146. So the sum of the first and third, so that's going to be, the first is n, the third is n plus 2, so n plus 2 is 146. The sum of the first and third is 146. All right, and now we just solve for n. 2n plus 2 is 146. Subtract 2 on both sides, and you get 2n is 144. Divide by 2, and you get n equals 72. n equals 72 is not the answer to the question because the question says find 3 consecutive integers. So the answer is going to be the 3 consecutive integers, 72, 73, and 74, n plus 1, and n plus 2. So on these kinds of problems, make sure you answer the question. Don't just stop at finding n or x or whatever letter you use. Make sure that you write the consecutive integers that they're asking for. All right, so this one says find 3 consecutive integers such that twice the sum of the first 2 is 2 less than 3 times the third, and that's really complicated, so the best thing to do is get really organized and write everything down. So you're looking for 3 consecutive integers, so you're going to call them n plus 1, and n plus 2. And it says that twice the sum of the first 2. So twice the sum of the first 2. So the first 2 are n and n plus 1. You're going to add them together. That's their sum. And you're going to multiply it by 2 because it says twice the sum. So 2 times n plus 1. And then the next part of that sentence says is 2 less than 3 times the third. So that is equals 3 times the third is 3 times n plus 2. And it's supposed to be 2 less than that, so you subtract 2 from it. Be careful, in that sentence, the 2 comes first, but that doesn't mean you're going to say 2 minus 3 times n plus 2, because that isn't 2 less than 3 times the third. 2 less than 3 times the third means you take 3 times the third and you subtract 2 from it. That's what 2 less than that means. All right, so you've set up your equation. Now all you have to do is just add your like terms, multiply, use the distributive property, and then get n by itself. All right, so you do your parentheses there. On the left, you've got 2 times 2n plus 1. And then on the right, if you distribute the 3, you'll have 3n plus 6. And then you've got that minus 2 there. Then go ahead and do the distributive property on the left side of the equation. So 4n plus 2 equals 3n plus 4. And now if you subtract 3n on both sides and you subtract 2 on both sides, you will get n equals 2. And again, that's not the answer because the question asks for 3 consecutive integers. And those are going to be 2, 3, and 4. n plus 1, and n plus 2. So make sure to put the answer. All right, last one. And I forgot to animate that last part. But it says find 4 consecutive integers such that 6 times the sum of the first and fourth is 26 less than 10 times the third. So again, that's a whole lot of information. You want to make sure that you write it down very carefully and organize in an organized way. So this time it's 4 consecutive integers. So n plus 1 and plus 2 and plus 3. We've got 4 of them now. It says that 6 times the sum of the first and fourth. All right, so the first is n, the fourth is n plus 3. So 6 times that sum is going to be 6 times n plus 3. So that's 6 times the sum of the first and fourth is 26 less than 10 times the third. So is means equals. It's going to be 26 less than 10 times the third. So 10 times n plus 2 minus 26. Now you can add your like terms on the left side. So you'll have 6 times 2n plus 3. Distribute on the right side and you'll have 10n plus 20 minus 26. Distribute on the left side, you have 12n plus 18 equals 10n minus 6 on the right side. Subtract 10n on both sides and subtract 18 on both sides, and you get 2n equals negative 24. Divide by 2, and n equals negative 12. So the answer is not negative 12, it is the 4 consecutive integers, which are now going to be negative 12, negative 11, negative 10, and negative 9. Notice you're adding 1. So since these are negative numbers, remember, this is not going to be negative 12, negative 13, negative 14, and negative 15. You don't keep going in the negative direction. You're adding 1 to each one. So negative 12, the next one is negative 11, negative 10, and negative 9. So that would be the answer for that.